Ready?
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you, Carlos. How y'all doing tonight? All right, did you have all the drinks and whatnot? Because you might need some by the time we're done here. So today we are taking a trip to the Upside Down. I think Janelle wrote that description, and that was pretty amazing. Our community, Orlando Devs. By the way, I'm Sergio Cruz, and I'm one of the co-organizers here. Who was here for the first time again? I forgot to look back. Awesome. Well, welcome in. It's great to have you all here. So the quick history of the Orlando Devs. Somebody, I think, were you one of the co-founders as well with TJ, Carlos? Were you part of that? No? Okay. Well, anyway, there were a couple of individuals that got together. They built a Slack just for that, right? Like a bunch of meetups happened around town, but you wouldn't see those individuals until the next time we met up. They thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could just hang out throughout the month via online chat? And that's how that was the first time Orlando Devs came about. But when that happened, and this is pretty significant, one of their main things were no recruiters allowed, right? They didn't want to be harassed. And then pretty soon it became obvious that we could use a meetup of our own as well. We noticed that, be it back-end developers, front-end developers, mobile developers, regardless, there are things that we have in common that we talk about. So we thought it'd be cool to have a common meetup where we all kind of come together and start to, learn from each other. But when we met up together, it didn't really make sense to ban recruiters from here because, the door is open, anybody can come in. But this is definitely the first time we let people, a staffing agency officially sponsor this meetup. And so Lindsay's here. Thank you for being here. She's going to do a talk. Then later we're going to sit down and have a quick Q&A. So if any questions come up during my talk or during hers, be sure to write it down so we can have a little chat about it before we leave. So anyway, so it's different. It's something different, and hopefully you all take something from this, right? So I feel like both our industries, they coexist in a way. We need each other, and I'm sure there are frustrations from both sides, and our goal here is to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So Lindsay was brave enough to come out here and represent her side of things and whatnot, and I'm actually pretty excited to hear from her as far as how things work and whatnot. Now, as far as I'm concerned here, I'm going to tell you a little bit of experiences I've had through the years with recruitment agencies. A couple of things I think I learned. Hopefully they're not misconceptions. If they are, that's exactly why Lindsay is here. So we'll see. All right, so let's take a trip back in time. So I personally started writing code for a living when I was only 16 years old. I was one of those kids that I always loved computers and kind of figured, things out on my own. So while I was in high school, I actually had a full-time job writing code for a living. So that was literally my first and pretty much only job that I've ever had was, just writing code. So with that, but I was in high school, so I was pretty young, pretty naive. I didn't really know that, that I could actually make a career out of this, right? So yeah, finally graduated from high school, always working. So through, halfway through high school, then started college as well. And so went for computer programming, computer science, all of that kind of stuff. And that's sort of when I found out I was probably on my first or second year of college when I found out that meetups were a thing. I had no idea what we're doing here today existed. I didn't know that developers, software developers or whatever, we got together to share knowledge, right? So that was pretty cool. So I went to a couple of meetups. A person I worked with kind of introduced me to that world. I absolutely loved it. And it was pretty stereotypical. I was just having a conversation with Lindsay about this. We had a meetup in North Orlando. We were called the North Orlando Web Developers. About 15 of us showed up every single month religiously. And we were pretty stereotypical. I mean, if you saw us, most of us were guys. There might have been a couple of girls. We all looked super nerdy, and it was really easy to spot a developer once you saw them. I mean, all the stereotypes there were true. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I probably went there 2 or 3 times, and the following time, like the following month when I get there, there's our group as usual, and then there's one person. And she looked normal. She didn't look like the rest of us. But she talked like she knew like of our stuff, our coding stuff, but she wasn't really part of it. And again, pretty young, pretty naive. I didn't know recruiters were a thing. And she's like, well, I'm a recruiter, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I'm naive, but what does that mean? Like, what do you actually do? Like, there are people out there that literally live for like, you know, kind of finding people jobs and placing them, because that's pretty awesome, right? So that was my first experience with a recruiter. It was actually a pretty positive experience I had with her. At the time, she was actually recruiting for a job at EA Sports, right? And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool to interview at the company that, you know, every time I played video games as a kid, right? EA Sports to the game, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool to be so close to them? Like, you know, again, I'm young, I'm naive, and I'm starting to kind of find out like how the world works and whatnot. So sure enough, I took her business card, didn't really do anything. I think I was scared, but probably about a month afterwards, I finally decided to email her. And I did. Turned out she did still have an opening for EA. So I sent her my resume. She replies with a few comments like, hey, you should improve this, this, and that. And I thought, wow, not only does she find people jobs, she's kind of like a career coach as well. That's pretty dope. I like this, right? So she gave me all of these tips on what I should do on the resume. I did. She sent it to her client, EA, the hiring manager, and they scheduled a phone screening with me. And I was still pretty early on in my career, so I did the phone screening. Disclaimer, I completely bombed that completely. Specifically, the person who was interviewing me, I think he was a guy from Canada or something, he asked me, well, have you worked with RESTful APIs? I said, absolutely, APIs, I'm all about APIs, I love APIs. To me, APIs were like, you know, using jQuery and calling a thing from a server and getting a JSON response back. That was the extent of my knowledge around that. Like I said, around then, I think I was probably, you know, 2nd year of college, also self-taught, but hadn't really worked with a lot of teams, so didn't really have a formalized way of things. By the way, to this day, I've never taken a course in college that actually covered REST, so there's that. Then again, I ended up dropping out afterwards, so don't take my word for it. But so he asks RESTful APIs. I'm like, yeah, I love APIs. So he goes, okay, what do you have to do? What HTTP method do you have to use to update a record, you know, through your API? And I had no idea. I didn't even know what that was or what. He was super patient. He was super kind with me. He said, well, it's actually the put method. And he kind of, you know, gave me the ropes on what I needed to learn. And that was probably around the first time as well that I finally realized how much I still didn't know, right? So granted, didn't get that job, kind of moved on with things, but that's how I found out that recruiters existed. All right, so now we're talking about recruiters. I want to be a little bit more specific here because the word can mean a lot of things. I'm going to place them in 2 main categories here, and there are probably more. Lindsay can correct me as usual. But as far as developers and how we interact with them, I feel like there are 2 main types of recruiters that we interact with. The first one are internal recruiters. What I mean by internal recruiters is these recruiters, they work directly for companies that hire. So for example, EA, right? EA they do have some internal recruiters, and the way, you know, literally their full-time job is to find people to work for EA. Then there's the second type of recruiters. I kind of refer them to third-party recruiters or staffing agencies, and their job, so they work for a staffing agency, and so they're recruiting for multiple companies, right? And in these staffing agencies, the way it works is they, they'll kind of reach out. I don't know. Let me just throw out an example. AAA, right? AAA is a big company here in Central Florida. They'll reach out to AAA. They'll ask AAA, what kind of professionals are you looking for? They'll take care of finding those professionals and sending them over AAA's way, right? So when we're referring to recruiters here tonight, we're more so referring to staffing agencies. That's what Lindsay is a manager of recruiters now, but she's been in the business for a really long time, so she'll tell you a little bit more about herself when she comes up here. But when I'm talking about recruiters, it's more so not internal, not a Google recruiter or a Facebook recruiter, but more so a third-party recruiter. Okay, so now that we know what they are or what that means, and I don't know, for some of you, this might be new information. For others, it's pretty obvious. None of this was obvious for me when I started out, okay? So I'm trying to break things down as much as I can. All right, so third-party recruiters, staffing agencies, right? They usually hire for two main types of jobs. Surely there are more, but from my experience, they usually, it was either contracting or full-time. Let me explain the difference. Usually with contracting, or sometimes they'll call it consulting, I'll keep using AAA as an example. They found me, I'm a qualified developer. No, forgive me, they found, what's your name, sir? Eli. They found Eli. Eli is a great programmer. He really knows his stuff. They sent Eli to AAA. AAA's hiring manager. The hiring manager absolutely loves Eli, as everyone would, because Eli is great. Right, Eli? Yeah. So I love your confidence. Yeah, I'm great. Right. Well, now, if Eli is doing contracting, the way that usually works is Eli's not getting paid from AAA. He's working at AAA. He goes there every single day, but he gets his paycheck through the recruiting firm, right? Make sense? So he's working at AAA every single day, but every week or every other week or however, it is that the recruiting agency works, they're actually paying them, and they're billing AAA directly and taking their fee and their commissions and all of that, directly from the source kind of thing. The other way that could work is full-time, where AAA, which staffing agency, we need somebody and they'll be full-time. So what that means is Eli from day one would get all benefits and all the paychecks and everything directly through AAA, right? And the staffing agency just played a role in placing that professional there. And usually, I don't know the details to this, Lindsay can clarify later, but after 30 days, 90 days, or whatever, they'll just get a lump sum check, whatever it might be, for placing Eli there. Right. Whereas with contracting, again, every single hour that Eli works for that company, they're getting, their little commission out of that. Does that make sense? Is this new information for anybody here? No, you all know this stuff. Great. I don't mean to bother you, so let's move along. Cool. All right. So one of the could be a misconception or whatever that I have with, especially with contracting, is I believe recruiting agencies, probably I want Lindsay to clarify this for me at the Q&A, but from what I understand, they kind of already have a rate set up between them and AAA, right? So when they finally get around to hiring you, I'm going to say this, I'm not trying to be mean, it's business, right? The less they pay you, the more profit they make. Because they kind of already got things sorted out. Is this true? Kind of, sort of?
We'll talk about it.
All right, we'll talk about it. I love this.
There's times that
It varies. I'm sure it varies. the point I want to make here is that there's always room to negotiate a little bit. In a second, I'm going to talk about why there's some friction there. But usually, if you want to play really hardball, obviously it's a gamble. Play your cards right. You might lose out on that opportunity. Like I said, I'll talk about this for a little bit, in a little bit. But hey, if hiring manager absolutely loves you, recruiter will have to do a little bit more work here to make things work. Sometimes it's with the recruiter's boss. Sometimes it's directly with the hiring manager. But if they absolutely love you and it's guaranteed that you get some, then then try to negotiate. So staffing agencies will look out for their best interest. You should be doing the same. Make sure you play your cards right. So that's all I'm trying to say here. All right. So one of the grievances or difficulty when it comes to staffing agencies, as far as I've experienced, I've heard somebody say this analogy once, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's the realtor analogy. So here's how a realtor works. Let's say I'm signing a house. Let's make numbers easy. So I'm signing a home for $100,000, right? Realtors usually make 3 to 6% commission on top of that sale. So if a customer comes in, a client that is interested in buying that home and says, I will pay $100,000 for this home, then, the realtor will, kind of know what they'll get out of it. However, if I think, me as the seller, I am the seller this time, if I think that I could get $10,000 to $20,000 more for that home, I'm going to try to do that because it's $10,000 to $20,000, right? That's a lot of money. But guess what? The realtor is only in for 3% of that. So at every $10,000, we're talking $300 for the realtor. And it might be a whole lot more work for them when they kind of already have somebody in the door saying, I'm willing to pay $100K, right? The $300 more that they get is not a life-changing amount, right? They're more interested in the $3,000 that they already knew that they were going to get, and they want to get the deal out the door. Move fast, right? Well, but for me, $10,000 or $20,000 is a lot of money. I'm not going to pass on that, right? So, but it does take more work there. So sometimes it works a little bit that way, right? Like along with the negotiating thing, you will, and there's good reason for this. It's not necessarily criticism. I would love Liz's clarification on this, but I think that sometimes staffing agencies, they get to negotiate an exclusive contract with some companies, right? And what that means is they're the only ones placing for that position. And that's a pretty cool deal. They find people, they send it their way, there's no competition. But a lot of times, there are a lot of staffing agencies placing for the same position. This is true, right? So guess what? There's competition. And so if they don't send people fast and get people interviews, then there's a chance that other staffing agencies will have sent people as well. So the more you're like, well, I don't know if that's good enough money for me, I don't know. Well, they're going to move on you quick because they need to send somebody there. It's just business. It's how it works. But I need you to understand this because sometimes they'll pass on you like this, and you're like, well, did I do something wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? Well, it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with you. It's they need to close the deal. It's a business, right? They're making sales. So there's the realtor analogy there. It might be kind of true. It might kind of not be true. We'll let Lindsay clarify this for us. Another thing that can somewhat be negative sometimes is the fact that a lot of recruiters, they haven't been in the industry for too long. So specifically, they're not super duper well versed in the technology that they are hiring for. Here's an example. Hiring manager tells staffing agency, I need somebody that will do Angular, Laravel, and MySQL, right? So they start looking for that, and then they'll go through somebody's resume, and that person's resume will say, well, I know MVC frameworks, like JavaScript MVC frameworks. I know PHP MVC frameworks and relational databases. Well, they're kind of describing the same thing at a more abstract level. More specifically, you found the hiring manager, and I'm looking for Laravel, and I know somebody that's been doing, I don't know, Symfony, which is another MVC framework, PHP. I'll take them any time of day because it's hard enough to find people. But if the person looking for those candidates, they're not well versed enough in that world, which a lot of them just aren't, and it's understandable. If they were developers, then they wouldn't be recruiters, right? Like, it's two different things. But if they don't know how to identify those things, then they're just going to pass on you onto another resume that has the right keywords on it. So, again, something for you to be aware of. Ask the right questions because, sometimes they simply don't know. It's not that they're acting maliciously or anything like that, but you won't hear from them again, and that's kind of life. They're like, well, probably not a good fit. Let's move on, right? So let's see, what else do I have here? Now, I've been placed by staffing agencies before. Most of my experiences were very positive. So one was a contract job, just like I talked about. I got paid directly by the staffing agency. The other one was full-time, so they got, benefits and everything was from the company that I was working at, and they just took care of paying the staffing agency for placing me. So not super against recruiters or anything like that. However, I do dislike the spamming sometimes. And it's a bummer. I don't know how to fix this. That's something I love to talk to Lindsay about. How can we get over the spamming, right? It kind of goes back to the whole keywords thing. Sometimes, I don't know, I don't have iOS or C# anywhere in my resume because I've never had a job that I've done any of those things. I've played with them at home, but if the recruiter knows this, that'd be kind of creepy, right? I think it's more so that they're just not even reading, they're just kind of reaching out. And so sometimes I'll get, like random calls or random emails for that, and it's just, okay, go to the trash. Like, I'm not even going to take the time. But yeah, this one time I even got one email. I shared it on Slack. It was a person said, hi. It was a placeholder where obviously they should have replaced my name. Instead of my name being there, it said losers. So, hi, losers. Blah, 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 blah. Like, really? You couldn't take the time to fix your copy and paste? Also, that's how you refer to us internally at your job. Like, that can't be a healthy company. Like, this was not Lindsay's company, thankfully. Trust me, she would not be here if it was. I got pretty mad at that person. But yeah. So, and I think like the main thing that I want to leave you all with is not only that I'm a loser, you already know that. Lindsay and I kind of joke about that sometimes. She'll call me a loser because she knows the story. Not because I am a loser, but whatever. But the main thing I want to leave you all with here is the whole idea of empathy, right? You're developers, get good at what you do, get better at what you do, right? And then and understand that that's how recruiters make a living. That's how that world works. Sometimes it's frustrating for us, but it's kind of how it works. We're going to get even more insight into the whole thing when Lindsay comes up here and talk. But try to understand. At the same time, I don't think there are any other recruiters. Are there any other recruiters here other than Lindsay? Oh, hello. What's your name?
Molly.
Hi, Molly. Welcome. Who do you work for? Awesome. I never heard of you guys, but thank you for being here. That's great. So I forgot where I was going with that because I got distracted. But anyway, if there's any way that you could take this message back, right, and I don't know, tell your coworkers and your peers and your subordinates and whatnot to try and treat people like human beings, right? Like sometimes those phone calls for you, it's just another phone call. A lot of us, especially when we're starting out, like that's the opportunity that we've been looking for a really long time, right? So our heart kind of starts to pump fast, and there's all of those emotions, coming through. It's pretty tough. when they just said, "Oh, no thanks," or they just kind of stopped replying or stopped. It's kind of frustrating, right, for us coders. So try to relate that message back there, if you would. We're human beings too. It sucks. Sometimes I just feel like a product. Sometimes I just feel like I'm not worth the time. I'm not worth the effort to replace one line in an email that would say Sergio instead of loser, right? So try to relate that back. The whole empathy. And if you're a developer, surely you've had bad experiences as well. Just know that that's not representative of everyone, right? If you're treating everyone badly, you're not any better than, you know what I mean? So just go both ways. So empathy, they're not going to be super well versed in the technology that they're recruiting for. It's okay. They're not supposed to be. If they were, they might not be doing this job. I think I've met like one person who used to be a developer and became a recruiter. But after all these years of doing what I do, it was literally just one. Surely she's not the only one, but anyway, that's not what they do. They're good at finding good quality candidates and placing people. That's their job. Your job is to be a really good developer and make sure you have really good marketing skills to make sure that you can market your skills. So I think I'll kind of leave you with that. Hopefully you learned something, but this is not even like the main part of this event. I think I'm really looking forward to the Q&A and all of the learning that we'll do there. So thank you. I appreciate it.